Welcome to TechStream. Today we are going to deploy this Django web service to render. And just before we deploy this Django web service to render, we are going to first host our database at Neon and finally store media assets at Cloudinary just before we deploy this straight to render. As you can see, it's now running on the local host. It's running on the local port. But at the very tail end of this video, we will have hosted this very web service to render. As you can see, it's a beautiful web service. It's a beautiful website. And at the very tail end, we'll be able to deploy it to render. So in the meanwhile, just hit the notification button and also subscribe. Be ready for the ride. So the very first thing you're going to do is to first host our database at Neon. And as I told you earlier, we're not going to use the SQLite database that Django provides, but you're going to use Postgres from Neon. So go and create an account, a free account from Neon, and after creating an account, you'll now navigate to the new project section and click that button, the new project button, and give your project a name. I give mine swiftgo. Just give mine swiftgo. Even the database, give it a name, swiftgo. Everything else, just leave it to remain constant and create that very database. You'll just give it a second to load. And what we need from this Neon dashboard is just to take the URL. So click the connect button here, connect to your database to get the database URL. And what you need to do is just to copy the snippet. After copying the snippet, you already have your database URL and we are good to go. We can now leave Neon to our project folder. So after navigating to your code base, the first thing you're going to do is to create a .env file. Create that. This is where you're going to put the database URL variable. And this is now where also the URL we copied from Neon comes in. You paste that URL there and you can close it. And after that, navigate to your terminal. And we need to add 3 dependencies to cater for that database URL. So the very first one will be pip install dj database URL. Ensure you add that. For me, I think it's already there. Pip install that dj database URL. And also after that dependencies, the second dependency will be pip install .env. Sorry for that, .env. And the very last one, mine I think it's already there, is also pip install python .env. Ensure you add those 3 dependencies because it will be used to cater for the database URL we are using. Oh, sorry for that, I missed something there. It has a hyphen, so ensure you add those 3 dependencies there. And after that, now navigate to your settings.py file and ensure you import OS. I don't know if you have that in your Django folder, but in your Django file, but ensure you add import OS. And after that, just add import dj database URL. And after that, from .env, import load.env. And finally is to load .env. This loads the variables from the .env file. And after that, navigate to the database section. And just above that, add this variable, database URL. So you add this variable. And this is where now os.getEnv comes. It retrieves the variables from the .env file. Ensure you add that. Ensure you add this variable because we're going to use it immediately down here. And we're going to change this to Postgres format. Postgres URL format. We're going to change this. Me, I'll be using Copilot. I don't want to type everything, but ensure you add this on your side. It's just so easy. You will see how it goes when the Copilot is done. Yes, I think it's okay. Yes, it's okay. So ensure in the database section, you change it to be this one line, default dj database URL. This helps Django to read a database URL .config default, and then instead of something like SQLite, you now add this variable database URL. Remember, this database URL is being fetched from the .env file. It is fetching this specific URL. So ensure you do this. You change the SQLite format to this new format that reads an URL. So you'll just go default the colon dj database url.config, and then you add this and you'll be good to go. So I think we are done in the database part. So after this, we're now going to the Cloudinary part, and we're going to see how we are going to store media assets from our database straight to Cloudinary. So be ready for the next ride. So the next part of this tutorial is to store media assets at Cloudinary, and if you're interested to store media assets at Cloudinary, just follow this part of the tutorial and it will be worth it. So we are going to first create an account in Cloudinary if you don't have one, and that's all you need to go from here. So you'll navigate back to your code base, and in your code base you'll navigate to the .env file we created earlier, and we need to create three variables. The very first one is Cloudinary cloud name. That's the very first one you'll need to do, and you'll just leave it blank for now. And also we need to create the Cloudinary API key, and finally you're also going to create the Cloudinary API secret key. Leave it blank for now. We're going to get these variables right now, and navigate back to your Cloudflare dashboard, copy the cloud name, go back there, paste where it needs to be. We'll now navigate to the API keys to get the API keys. Just give it a second to load. Copy the API key, go back to the API key, paste that there. Also go to the API secret, and before you see the API secret, you'll need to put in your password. Wrong password, sorry. Yes, and then you'll copy the API secret, go back to your code base and paste that there. And after creating those three variables, you can now close the .env file. And the very first thing in the settings.py file you're going to do is to, for me, I'll uncomment this, and you need to add this line in your code: default file storage, and then add this cloudinary underscore storage dot storage dot media cloudinary storage. Ensure you add this line. It tells Django that the default media assets, the default place to store your media assets will be Cloudinary. And after adding that, we're now going to declare our variables in the settings.py file. So we're going to do Cloudinary storage exactly, it has already done it for me. So ensure you add this. You add the cloud name os.get env cloudinary cloud name to get the cloud name, os.get env to get the API key, and also get env to get the API secret, and it will be stored in these variables: the cloud name, the API key, the API secret. This will be very crucial. It will be required by Cloudinary to confirm that yes, you are a user of Cloudinary and you are trying to store media assets in your account. So ensure you add these three. And before we go to the next step, ensure you also in your installed apps, ensure you install these apps. Sorry for that. Ensure in your installed apps, ensure you add these two lines. You add the Cloudinary line and the Cloudinary storage line. Ensure you add those two lines before going to the next procedure. So I can even go and see how it works. Yes, at Cloudinary it's there, Cloudinary storage is there, and also down here ensure you add this line and also this other line, the Cloudinary storage, where you are getting the variables. Ensure you add these two lines, and finally you can uncomment this part because we're not going to use this URL to store media assets, but we are going to use the Cloudinary storage area. So next, you're going to create three files that will be required by render during the build phase. And just before you create those three files, you're going to add some dependencies that are required during the build phase, and also the dependencies from Cloudinary that are required by Django. And the very first one is pip install Django. I think it's a hyphen, yes, Cloudinary storage. I think mine is already there, but if you don't have it, ensure you install it. Pip install Django hyphen Cloudinary storage, and I think it's also a hyphen here. And the next is a pip install Cloudinary. Ensure you add that because it will. These are the ones that count here in the installed apps. And also the next dependency we require is pip install. We need white noise. We need white noise for our static assets, and we're going to add a condition here, broadly required by render. It's good advice to add that broadly for the render purposes. And also pip install gunicorn, uvicorn, required by render during the build phase. Ensure you add all these dependencies I'm adding. Ensure you add each and every one of them. And after creating these dependencies, one dependency remains is the pip install psycho. It's the psycho pg2. I hope I got it right. The psycho pg2 binary. It's required by every Postgres database during production. So ensure you add that psycho pg2. Mine also is already there. So ensure yours is there. And immediately before we even proceed, the first file we need, we'll create it from the terminal. It's the requirements.txt file required during each and every hosting procedure. So we're going to do pip freeze requirements.txt. This will create a file called requirements.txt, and in that file we'll have all the dependencies our project requires. So ensure you add that file using the terminal pip freeze that arrow sign requirements.txt after adding all the dependencies you need, and we have just gone through that. And the very first file is done, so we're going to the second file, and the second file we'll create it here. It's called the build.sh. That's a file required by render during the build phase, and we're going to add these 4 lines. I think there are 4. We're going to add these 4 lines. Ensure you add that, you add the pip install. This is the file that runs during the build procedure at render. So ensure you add this. Collect static, that's why we need the white noise. Ensure you add those 3 lines. This one is also required by render during the build phase. Set the -o errexit pip install requirements.txt python manage.py collect static, and also python manage.py migrate. Ensure you add these 4 lines of code. Ensure you add them. So the very last file you're going to create is the render.yaml file, and in this file you're going to add some few commands here that is required during the build phase. You just copy that, paste that there. The very first bit is commented out because we're not using a database from render, and also the last bit is commented out because we don't want to add the environment variables here. So we need the services bit because the type is the web service. We're using a web service from render. We're using a free plan, and the name, I'll give mine, the web service name will be swiftgo. Everything just remains constant because the build command is the build.sh file we created, and also this is the start command. Ensure you add this. I'll put this in the description below so that you can also copy and paste and continue with the tutorial perfectly. So ensure you add those 3 files and we'll be good to go to proceed to the next part. And so you're going to click this to open the site on the local host, and let's just give it a second to load the web service. And as you can see, everything is working perfectly. All the changes we did not break it. We have no conflicts. Everything is working perfectly. The site is up and running, and we're going to navigate to the materials section to see if it's working. Yes, it's working, but it has no data because we migrated our database to Neon. So we are going to add some few items to see if our database is working, and also to see if our media assets are being stored at Cloudinary. So we're going to navigate to the admin part and go to the materials section. And we're going to add a material. The very first material we're going to add, we're just going to add 2. It's just purposes of showing that everything is working perfectly. We're going to add a material. This may take a second or two because we migrated the database and everything is taking time to load, but it will be good to go. So we're going to go with Kings 4. A simple any name, give it a price. I'll choose a file. I'll choose this image. I'll just open, save, and add another. I'll add 2. and this one I'll make it distinct. I can even add a different one. Let's just give it a second or two to go to the next one. This I'll just call it even a Danny KE. That's good. Price, I'll just give it 700. I'll choose a file. I'll go with this one with an arrow so that you can see I really added the one with an arrow. Don't want any issues, integrity issues. So already I've added the two files. We're going to go back to the site to see, yes, if they were added in the materials section. And we're going to navigate to the materials section. And voila, you can see the two materials have been added. Previously, they were not there, and it's King for and it's Adani KE. Number one, it's showing us that the database we added, this database, the Neon database from Neon, this database URL we had from Neon is working perfectly. And as you can see, number two, the media assets are being stored at Cloudinary because we commented out the media URL down here. So it only shows us that the assets are being stored at Cloudinary. And as we go to the Cloudinary and go to the folders, and it created a folder called it the material images. And if you go to the material images, let's just give it a second to see. You can see there are two files, the two images that have been added to your Cloudinary project, your Cloudinary account. So we are good to go. Everything is now working perfectly. Now the last bit is to deploy this website to render. Everything about setting up is good, and the last bit just before we deploy it to render is to first, after ensuring everything is okay, after ensuring everything is working perfectly, change the debug attribute to false, because it should never be true in production. And the allowed host, because we are going to deploy to render and render will give it a specific render domain, just add this asterisk, because this tells Django that it to allow any form of host, any kind of host. And later, after deploying our site, we are going to copy that domain that render gives us and add it here to just give permission to render. So after doing that, we are now ready to go. We are now ready to go to the last bit of this tutorial, which is to successfully deploy our site to render. So be ready for the next step, which is going to be a very good one. So just before we deploy this service to render, we are going to first push our code to GitHub. That's where render will clone our project folder from. And just before we push it to GitHub, just a kind reminder, in your urls.py file, I don't know if you've done this, but ensure you add this. From django.conf import settings and from django.conf.urls.static import static, ensure you add this, and you add this URL patterns below the main URL's pattern variable. You add this to ensure that static assets are being served properly during production. The media part is, you can just leave it, it's not quite important, but on the static bit, ensure you add this because it will help render to know where the static assets will be served. So ensure you add that. And also in your whiskey.py file, ensure below the application get whiskey application, you add this application is equals to application. Ensure you add that app gets application. It will really help during the build phase. Ensure you add those two. And in this bit, I'll add it in the description below so that you can find this, copy and paste and continue the tutorial perfectly. So after knowing that, we're just going to push it straight to GitHub. And the very first thing you want to do is a git init to initialize the Git repository, and you'll want to add everything to the staging area. You'll git add to add each and every file to our staging area. And remember, we'll just ignore the .env file. If you navigate to my git ignore, the .env file is ignored, so it will not be pushed because it has very sensitive and very secret variables that you should not want to push it to GitHub. So ensure you add that. Let's just give it a second or two to finish adding everything to the staging area, and then we'll commit and finally push our code to GitHub. Let's just give it a second. And after everything has been added to the staging area, we're now going to commit with a message. I'll just say deploying to render. Deploying to render. Yes, I'll just leave it that way. No issues. Don't care about the underscore. Everything is just great. It's just a message to display something, to pass a message on. And after committing, now after it's finished committing, we'll now push it to GitHub and now go straight to the main thing, which is deploying our service to render, and hope everything works well because we have done everything perfectly. So on your side, ensure you have done everything perfectly so that no conflict arises. Just follow this tutorial step by step. Do not bypass any bit of the tutorial to think that you can do it, but just follow it and everything will work perfectly. So let's just give it a second. It's almost done, and then we'll push it, and then finally we will deploy our service to render. After everything has been committed, you just push to GitHub, git push. And remember, I think we didn't ensure you create a GitHub account, and then you create a new repository to store the code. I'll just name it render swift. Just name it render swift, and then you create the repository. And then what you need is the URL. Just copy it, go back to the git push bit, paste that, then add the branch, and you now push this code to GitHub straight, and then we go and host it at render, and everything will work perfectly. Your Django web service will be live at render very, very soon. Just give it a minute or so, and everything will be working perfectly. So it's done, everything has been pushed to GitHub. Even as you reload the repository to see if everything is working perfectly, you'll see everything that has been pushed to GitHub. Now we navigate to the render dashboard. Ensure you create a render account. It's a free account. Ensure you add the free, or if you want to go to the paid versions, no problem. And you navigate to the add new bit, the add new section of the render dashboard, and add a new web service. And you'll want to link your GitHub account with render. So I'm not using GitLab or Bitbucket, I'm using GitHub. And just follow the procedure. Mine, it's big on him, my GitHub account. And then I'll just want only select repositories, and then I'll select, I just want the render swift one, this one. And then I'll just install render to be allowed by GitHub to access some select few of my repositories. And as you can see, everything is now working perfectly. Let's just give it a second. Yes, now you'll click that repo, the render swift. Maybe in your case it's something else, just continue with that, and you'll navigate to the build command, and instead of that, just add sh build.sh. Remember, we added a file called build.sh, so ensure you add this command to prevent any issue from arising. We want to ensure everything is done perfectly, so just add that. And in the gunicorn app, with the app thing, you just wrap that and add the swiftgo.asgi. Remember, the name of my project was called swiftgo. My project, that is in Django, the Django project. So ensure it's the start command is gunicorn swiftgo, the name of your project, I don't know what it is, .asgi. Ensure you do that to prevent any issue from arising, and we'll go with the free tier. Exactly. And in the environment variables, this is where the .env file will come in. And remember, we created a .env file and we added some secret variables. We don't want to push that to GitHub. That's why we use the .gitignore file. So we don't want to add also the variables manually. We'll just add from the .env file we created, because all our variables are stored in that file. And if you navigate to your project folder, your project root directory, just click the .env file and it will add all the variables in there. Just remove the white space there. So ensure, remember, this was the 4 variables add, just add the variables. And the next thing is to click that purple good button, deploy web service, and render will start to deploy our web service, and our Django web service will be live in in a few minutes. So let's just give it a few minutes so that everything can be deployed perfectly, and your service at the end of it all will be deployed live. So just ensure you follow each and every step perfectly and everything will be okay. Let's just give it a minute or two to deploy our service to render. So after allowing render to build everything, as you can see, everything has been working perfectly. The logs have been downloading everything from your requirements.txt file, and finally our web service is live. As you can see, your service is live. As promised, this channel never fails. Your service is live. And if you're facing any issue, ensure you have followed the tutorial step by step, and you can post any issue faced in the comments below, and I'll be more than happy to solve. So you can see if everything is working. The link is just on the very top. I'll just click it and see if yes, my project has been deployed successfully to render. As you can see, everything is moving on perfectly. I think I'm positive and everything has been deployed successfully, and our service is now live. As you can see, this is not the local host, this is a live server. As you can see, everything is back, everything is working, everything is perfect. You can just see, let's give it a second, because yes, as you can see, everything is working, everything is working. We go to the material section to see if our database is, as you can see in the material section, there is nothing because we just deployed it to render and everything started. So we are going to the admin panel to see if you can be able to add the material section. And if you go to the material, the admin section, the materials part of it, and I'm going to add a new material. Let's see. I'll just name it anything. I'll even name it Swifto material, anything. I'll just name it anything. This is just purposes of learning. Price. I'll just give it a price and add a file, and I'll navigate to the media part where I have this and the material images, and I'll add that one, and I will save it. Let's see if it saves, and because this will show us that our Neon database is working. Also, our Cloudinary is storing our media assets. Let's see, it has been added successfully. You don't need to add another one. If you want to add more, you just go back to our project to see, and go to the materials bit. And as you can see, everything has been added. This thing is real time. It's just so good. And if you go to the Cloudinary bit, you'll see, let's go to the material images. Just give it a second. The materials, yes, let's give it a second to load. As you can see, these were the ones we added earlier. This is just the one we have added right now, and everything is now working. Our Django web service has been deployed to render successfully. Ensure you follow each step of the tutorial step by step, and everything will be good. If you're facing an issue, just comment it down below. I'll be more than happy, I'll be more than glad to solve each and every one of them. So ensure you like the video, you comment, and also subscribe to this channel for more. Let's meet next time. This has been TechStream. Thank you.